Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the story about Naruto. What if Naruto mastered Taijutsu technique? Part 2. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please do support for more awesome content and also hit the subscribe button and share this video with your friends and also support the creator of this fanfic. I have created many playlists, check it out in the channel. So let's start the video. Where am I? Kakashi muttered, waking up in a clean but small room with basic furniture and one mattress on the floor. The door opened to let a pretty woman in. She was wearing a pink shirt and a blue apron that reached her ankles. "Oh, you are already up? I am Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter. You've been asleep for a week now, do you feel well?" She quickly explained, answering most of his questions in a quick reply. She might live in a mere piscatory village, but she's smart. The conclusion. "Yes, I feel just fine, thanks. I don't mean to be rude, but can you tell me why I wasn't woken?" he asked, not believing the idea that Naruto did not try to shake him until he woke up. Tsunami put on the biggest smile she could have and giggled. "We tried. Your blonde student tried plenty of times. You just didn't wake up. He then decided to try and poke you with his thin sword, but your pink-haired student stopped him with a very strong punch." Kakashi wanted to laugh at this. He couldn't count on his fingers the times that Naruto had his face punched in by Sakura. He took the sheets off of himself and stood up, having trouble balancing himself for some moments. "Can you tell me where they are? I need to have a talk with them." He slowly walked out of the room, followed by the Tsunami. "They are all guarding the bridge, while my father works there." It was the raven-haired boy's idea. She quickly answered. He smirked. "That's just like Sasuke. Though I don't appreciate him ordering the others around, he did well." He quickly walked out of the house, ignoring Tsunami's protests about how he hadn't eaten anything for so long. It was a small village, and the bridge was not hard to find at all. Naruto was standing at the entrance, wearing his normal black clothes, but this time, with Nabari on his back. It was placed vertically, as if crossing with the Fuma Shuriken's cross-like design. That's so like Naruto, trying to show off and look like a badass. The annoying thing was, he actually did look like a badass. A few meters behind the blonde genin was Sasuke, who was obviously trying really hard not to punch Sakura in the face for following him around. Kakashi approached Naruto. "Naruto, has anyone attacked this last week? Anything suspicious? Report," he quickly ordered. Naruto smiled and unsheathed Nabari. The blade was covered in fresh blood. The genin then pointed behind him to the two corpses. Two idiots who thought they could threaten the workers went to meet their god after facing Nabari. Besides that, nothing else. "Glad to see you have recovered already, sensei. Tazuna-san says the building of the bridge will end in about 1 week. Sakura thinks it will take abuse of about 5 days to recover, so we'll probably face him again with his little friend." As they spoke, Uzumaki approached his teammates, accompanied by Kakashi. "So you three already know?" they asked. Sakura smiled. "Naruto told us about it on the way to the Land of Waves. He read practically every single one of the books that are stored in the Konoha library and told us that Hunter Nin only need the head of a missing nin to prove their death. He also said that it can be used to stop the vital signs and fake death for a while." Although she was talking about something very dangerous, she showed no fear and kept smiling. First stage of death, denial. Kakashi thought to himself. Sasuke scowled before smiling. "This is like some damn movie. I bet that guy is going to show up on the last day. So dramatic. I doubt things will be so easy this time. He now knows our capabilities and even has someone to help him." Uchiha commented, as if he was dealing with something trivial. He seemed like a true shinobi, but it was obvious that he was also denying his feelings, just in a different way. To Kakashi, the only one that didn't show any sort of feeling regarding the incoming fight was Naruto. The stupid, pathetic little excuse for a ninja was facing 2-level shinobi, one probably Anbu level, without a single trace of fear. The silver-haired lowered his eyes until they met with the longsword. "That's it. Naruto, how are you feeling right now?" he asked, as if his student looked sick and didn't realize it. They looked up at him and smiled. "Better than ever. Just knowing the fact that I'm going to kill those two, or maybe even crucify them, and leave them to die makes me go wild. My blood is boiling. I can feel my killing intent growing more and more," he replied, much to everyone's shock. Just who in the fuck was this kid? Kids were supposed to play football and enjoy their lives while they were innocent and probably try to ignore the fact that someone had just died. But this one? He embraced it and craved for more. There was something wrong. Kakashi extended his arm and took a hold of the sword, snatching it from Naruto's grip. How about now? Naruto fell to his knees. His skin became pale and he coughed out a bit of blood. Damn, what's wrong with me? I felt trapped inside myself. I felt cold hatred take over me and I couldn't control my actions. He coughed out a bit more blood before falling to the side. Kakashi looked at him with pity. Every single one of Karigakure's 7 legendary swordsman's swords has a specific characteristic. Kubikirabacho has the power to reconstruct itself with the iron of its victim's blood. Nabari has the ability to sew your enemies together or to something else. That, you knew. But they also have a drawback. Not everyone can wield these swords because they eat away at your soul and fill it with the combined dark feelings, thoughts, and intentions of its former users. It is extremely hard to resist it and maintain your mind intact. If you fail to do so, its dark properties will eat you from the inside and you will become sick. He explained, watching, as Naruto barely managed to stay awake. You can go to sleep, someone like you will probably wake up in an hour. It is okay though, I wanted to give each of you training this week anyway. Later that day, Naruto woke up in the middle of a field, not quite sure of where he was. He could hear sounds of heavy breathing and hits being delivered, and so, he quickly rose up to his feet. Zabuza no, it's too early to be him. He reached for his back, but didn't find Nabari there. Kakashi probably took it. He looked around to see a pretty girl picking weeds. She looked up at him and smiled. So you're awake? I'm sorry if I woke you up. I tried not to. She quickly excused herself. Naruto smiled back at her. Don't worry, I woke up on my own. Why are you picking weeds? He quickly asked her. She placed the ones she had on her hands in a basket before looking back up. A friend of mine is hurt, so I am picking up the required weeds to help him. These ones, for example, are used to accelerate the blood circulation and thus accelerate the healing process. She showed him a bunch of weird leaves. Naruto thought about it for a second and then smiled. So you are the hunter Nin. She stood up and turned around to walk away. I have to go now, I've picked what I needed. Wait, since you know a bit about healing abilities, do you have something that could give me a bit of extra energy for my practice? Hearing this, she stopped and turned around before smiling again. She approached Naruto and placed her right index finger on his heart. Think of someone you love or cherish. True strength comes from wanting to protect people that are important to you. I know that from personal experience. She said before kissing his forehead and walking away again. Thinking of someone important to you shouldn't be very hard. Someone as handsome as you must attract people anyway. Hearing this, Naruto was confused for a second. When she was out of sight, he walked up to the sounds he had heard earlier. He came out of the trees to find Sasuke dodging a bunch of shuriken before spitting a fireball at Kakashi, who was hit but turned into a log. Naruto quickly threw a kunai at the Kakashi that was appearing behind Sasuke. Too easy, his sensei proclaimed as he deflected it with a kunai of his own. Naruto's kunai went up, spinning like a shuriken. Naruto disappeared after smirking at Kakashi. Realizing his mistake, the sensei ran through hand seals and spat 3 fire flares at Naruto, but he was already gone. Sealed were scattered all over the field. Naruto seemed like a flash. Shit. Take this. Naruto kept jumping from one kunai to the other, punching Kakashi before he had a chance to retaliate. All he could do was block. Here, Sasuke spat 3 flares of his own, distracting Kakashi enough to have Naruto punch him square in the face, sending him tumbling back. Naruto teleported to a knife next to Sasuke, and they fist-bumped. Nice cinch. He complimented him. The Uchiha scowled, as if it was nothing. By now Kakashi was on his feet, rubbing his left cheek. Your teamwork has improved. But never let your guard down. He disappeared in a white smoke cloud, only to appear behind them, hands performing seals. A loud but melodic sound was heard, as if someone had decided to play the flute. Kakashi stopped and dropped, kneeling, as if he had just been hit. His 2 arms stretched out to the sides, as if he was crucified. Matenki, Mugen Onsa. Sakura's voice was heard before the playing began again. Kakashi's right eye was wide open, as if he was feeling the most intense pain. He yelled. In his eyes, his right arm was melting, the bone breaking in several different spots. His left arm was being twisted around, tendons and muscles ripping apart. Finally, a second Kakashi that was standing right in front of him pierced through his torso with a spike, causing him further agony. Some bushes rustled as Sakura came walking out of her hideout. She grabbed a kunai and placed it against Kakashi's throat. "We win, sensei," she said, winking and smiling as she released him from the. Kakashi stood up and quickly grabbed his arms and torso, making sure they didn't melt or get penetrated by a spike. He then hid the only visible part of his face in shame. "I can't believe you three got me with such a basic strategy. Alright, you passed basic training. Now that Naruto's awake, I'll have you all train your specialties. Sakura, you don't have much chakra, but you are intelligent and have great chakra control. Genjutsu are perfect for you, seeing how you controlled the one I taught you earlier. Let's make this a game. You go out in the woods and cast the smaller I taught you on animals to paralyze them and then capture them. 10 animals will give you a C, 20 animals will give you a B, 25 an A, and 30 an S rank. You have 2 hours." He quickly explained. Sakura couldn't hold her excitement as she took a hold of her new flute and ran into the woods. Naruto scratched his head uncomfortably, as if something wasn't really right. "Sakura-chan, using Naruto, you'll be training with Nabari. First, just hold it and try to keep the dark thoughts and intentions from taking over you. When you can do that easily, start mixing the sword in your white crow attacks. You also have 2 hours for today. Go." "Alright, sensei." He quickly ran off before turning around and coming back to Kakashi, a dumb look on his face. "Can you give me Nabari, sensei? You're hopeless. Sasuke, I'll be teaching you some things about ninjutsu and some ninjutsu as well," he replied as he handed Nabari over to the. As soon as he grasped it, he felt a cold sting on his arm. "Fuck me, it's already attacking. But hell no, I am not going to let some stupid piece of metal take over the Kyuubi no Kitsune. I am darkness, you little piece of shit." With this, he forced the killing intentions to go back into the blade with his willpower alone. The cold stings still came from time to time, but he mastered it anyway. He rose and approached Kakashi, who had his left hand covered in lightning. "Hey, Iro-sensei, I can control Nabari now. How can I use it with my attacks?" he asked. Kakashi looked at him with a tick mark forming on his forehead. "Iro-sensei? What the hell do you mean?" they asked him back. Naruto laughed and merely pointed at the book he was holding in his right hand. "That is Icha Icha, a romantic story, not sex. It's porn in books, Kakashi-sensei," Sakura said, approaching him to drop the 15th animal before going back into the woods. 30 minutes had passed since they began the training. Sasuke scowled. "Yeah, Kakashi, it's porn." He agreed. They simply facepalmed, sighed, and turned to the. "What do you want anyway?" he asked, exasperated. "I finished my Nabari training. How do I implement it in my white crow attacks?" he asked again. Kakashi thought for a moment before snapping his fingers as if an idea had just struck him. He pointed at the kunai. "Why don't you place a seal on it just like the kunai? Then you can use it just like the kunai. But you can also implement in the drill peck to increase piercing power," he replied. Naruto quickly got excited and went back to his business. "Zabuza is so screwed. Tazuna-san, is the bridge nearly done, or what?" they asked as they left the builder's house to head for the construction site. The old engineer waited a few moments before snapping his fingers, finishing his calculations. "I believe it will be done tomorrow before lunch," he answered. Naruto smiled and picked up the pace, confusing the others. "Why so hasty? Do you have a date?" Kakashi jokingly asked, barely taking his eyes off of his beloved Icha Icha. "Zabuza is healed by now, so he probably will be on the bridge waiting for us today. Can't wait to use my new techniques against him." At this response, a sudden realization struck the others. The kid was right, it was the day Zabuza would be fully recovered. Were they really prepared to face Zabuza and his hunter-nin friend? Sakura had been taught a new skill after getting a S in Kakashi's game and had become adept with her flute. Sasuke had been learning chakra nature control and was developing a Raiten. Kakashi taught him an easy one, but it wasn't that strong. And finally, Naruto had developed a lot. Nabari couldn't control him at all anymore and was now sealed, providing him with yet another teleport exit. He had also managed to include it into many of his attacks. Though his fighting style now looked like some weird death acrobatic dance, it was extremely deadly. He had also included meters of ninja wire in order to use it as it was meant. He could now stitch bundles of bodies together or crucify them separately. "Sometimes I wonder if you still have a brain, Naruto. Zabuza fighting us is a bad thing," Sakura quickly said, a tick mark on her forehead. She envied the Jinchuriki's power and confidence. She felt safe with her, but deep down, she knew she still relied on her two teammates if it came to a close battle. Brain? His dictionary does not have that word in it. Sasuke commented, joining the argument. Naruto smiled and turned to face him while walking backwards. And yet I still beat the crap out of you in our fight. That makes you worse than brainless, he replied. Sasuke laughed, and they engaged in a verbal battle, trading insults not too foul, but not too innocent. Kakashi looked behind him at the pair and raised an eyebrow, as if he could not believe his eyes. Could it be that they are bonding? To the others' satisfaction, they quickly arrived at the bridge, putting a stop to the fight. It was almost finished, as only a bit of it was missing to unite the two halves. Immediately they found something weird. The place was silent, and the workers were all lying on a pile of bodies. As they approached, a mist took place. It wasn't very thick, as they could easily see through it, but it was obviously present. The three genin didn't even wait for Kakashi's command and quickly established a formation around Tazuna while they examined the bodies. They are all alive, they are just knocked out. Stay in formation. The kneeling order before standing up. Zabuza, where are you? Come on out. Kakashi, are you nervous? Is the mimicking monkey getting worried? You should be. Today it's going to be fair and fucking square. Haku will make sure your brats won't intervene. Zabuza said, approaching several meters in front of them, both of his hands on the hunter nin's shoulders, as if he was Haku's parental figure. Won't you, Haku? Of course, Zabuza-san. I will do what you say because I want your dreams to come true. Haku answered in a feminine voice. Zabuza smiled, satisfied, and pointed at Blonde, as if telling the dog to hunt. Very good, that boy right there is your main target. Bring Nabari back when it's over. He's really quick, so he might be a fun game for you. And with that, Haku started spinning so fast that she became a blur. A bunch came out of said blur, all aimed at Naruto, who just unsheathed Nabari and deflected all of them effortlessly. Haku got closer, Naruto smirked and threw Nabari up, waited for Haku to get closer, teleported to the legendary sword, and fell, kicking Haku, who barely managed to block before backflipping and getting on all fours in a desperate attempt to stop the momentum. When she managed to do so, a costume kunai with 3 points was already flying by her head, Naruto was already teleporting there, and Haku was kicked again. Only this time, she couldn't block and went tumbling back. Like my speed, weed picker? Naruto asked as Haku quickly got to her feet. The mask she was wearing prevented it from showing, but Naruto knew she was surprised. A handful of icy grew out of her hand. What's that? This is my Kekkei Genkai, Hyoten. You have impressive speed, so I'll have to balance it with this. She threw them. They were much faster than normal and hard to deflect as they were thinner. Naruto quickly teleported to another kunai and started spinning, creating a big drill that was directed at Haku. Naruto held Nabari in front of himself as he spun, making his drill peck that much more destructive. Haku barely avoided disaster by jumping up. Naruto stopped spinning and smirked as Sasuke ran through hand seals. Kaiten, Gakaku no, a huge fireball was spat at the airborne Haku, who quickly performed hand signs, finishing with a weird hand seal variation. Hyoten, Makyo Hayasho. A mirror quickly formed, condensing the air's humidity until it froze. Another mirror was formed behind them, and unbelievably, Haku entered the first and teleported to the second. What the? She was inches away from Naruto's neck when the latter teleported to another kunai. He looked back, seeing a standing Haku, forming a bunch of mirrors in a circle, covering the blind spots. With her speed, it could become a cage. A cage Sasuke was trapped inside. Naruto quickly marked the back of each mirror with a sealed kunai as a precaution before teleporting to the kunai that was inside the circle. Bad timing. You fell for it, Haku exclaimed as the mirrors shined with blinding light before the rain began. Meanwhile, today's predictions, Misty with a chance of ice needles. Zabuza taunted. Kakashi was trying to detect him, and the pink-haired girl kept a close watch on the bridge builder. She looked fragile, but the flute on her hand and her expression showed how dangerous she was. That flute shinobi only takes instruments to battles to use it with. Sound is the worst because it is really hard to block the sound. I get caught up on her, and it is all over. What is going on in there? Tazuna asked, looking at the cage. Kakashi uncovered his left eye, revealing the Sharingan. Naruto and Sasuke are being showered by chakra? He couldn't believe his eyes. In all his years of being a ninja, he had never seen something like this. The two genin were barely avoiding some of the attacks and already had sticking out of their bodies. If this goes on, they'll surely die. Haku. Such a treasure. You know how she was when I met her, Kakashi? Hopeless. Just a girl in ripped clothes that flared with no interest. Until I saw her make water float around with no effort at all. I asked her to show me everything she knew. She showed me Hyoten, the ice element. I trained her from then on, and boy, she is stronger than me. Your kids have no chance against her ice needles. Zabuza quickly explained with sadistic pleasure, thinking of how Haku would choose to kill the kids. Kakashi-sensei, shouldn't we do something? Sakura asked, now worried about her two teammates. They smiled. Zabuza, you are an idiot. Underestimating the two brats is something you've done before, and look at what happened. You got your stupid ass handed over to you. Sasuke is one of the few surviving members of the Uchiha clan, and a genius. He is 12 years old, yet he already knows 2 chakra elements. And the other one is from the Uzumaki clan, one of the most powerful clans in existence. Kakashi replied with a smile still on his face. Zabuza, don't you feel like you know something about Naruto's? Wait, that's Yandame's. Don't tell me that kid is the fucking son of Zabuza realized, as Kakashi smiled. Yep. He's Minato Namikaze's offspring. Kakashi revealed. Meanwhile in the cage. Impossible. No one can dodge all of my, Haku shouted, as Naruto vanished only to appear seconds later, unharmed. Sasuke was dodging all of them skillfully, not even one scratch on him besides the one he had before. His eyes were red and had 2 tamo that seemed like they were spinning around each other. Kekkei Genkai? Haku thought to herself. Naruto, we need to finish this quickly, Sasuke alerted as he felt his chakra dissipating. The Sharingan was amazing, but the chakra it cost was off the roof. They either finished it quickly or the Uchiha would pass out. Naruto smirked and measured Nabari. He quickly took out a roll of ninja wire and tied it around the sword's eye. No worries, you've got your new one ready? He asked, crouching in order to simply spring off and have more momentum. Yes. Ready? Sasuke asked. Naruto simply nodded. Haku appeared on all of the mirrors at the same time. You cannot destroy these mirrors with a simple katen. And if you think I will simply let you end me, you are wrong. I live to fulfill Zabuza-san's dream, and if his dream is killing you too, that's what I am going to do. She gripped her, and again, ice needles rained down on them. Naruto teleported from one kunai to another. He too was starting to feel his chakra weakening. Sasuke simply dodged them again, but this time, he took a few scrapes. Naruto was running out of the cage, but Haku quickly teleported to the closest mirror and threw it at him. You fell for it. And he quickly disappeared, appearing behind one of the cage's mirrors. He used Nabari to close the cage with wire, teleporting from one kunai to another and quickly covering them with said wire. He then quickly threw Nabari inside the cage and teleported to it. He quickly cut the wire and handed it to Sasuke. Do it? You cannot destroy the mirrors with fire, Haku repeated, confused at the seals that Sasuke was making. Snake, dragon, rabbit, tiger. Oh no, this is Katen, Ryuka no Jutsu, the Uchiha yelled before he was enveloped by intense flames that quickly ran through the wire and enveloped the cage. So that is what the wire was for, Haku thought to herself. The temperature was so high one could confuse it with hell. Haku quickly ran through hand seals. Boar, ram, hare, tiger, dragon, snake, tiger, Furizu. What the? The jutsu's fire started freezing and became completely white and blue, freezing at such a speed that even the flames that were just coming out of Sasuke's mouth froze. The Uchiha quickly cut the chakra flow and jumped away. This didn't go well as Haku appeared behind him and made a pincushion out of the boy. The wound wasn't lethal though. Sasuke stumbled back and was impaled with the sharp spear that the fire's beginning had become. Naruto couldn't believe his eyes. Dead? The Uchiha coughed out blood before bowing his head forward. Naruto, don't let your dreams die, and he fell forward, his head hitting the ground with a thud. Naruto didn't know what to feel. Loss, despair, sadness, anger, killing intent, sadism, wrath, all of those are overwhelming. Nabari's cold sting took over him, and he became filled with killing intent. The air around him revolved, and black chakra became visible. Apparently, blue, red, and gray chakra don't mix well together and quickly become foul energy. What? Haku had never been so scared in her life. Chakra can't be seen, yet this is clearly visible. What is this boy? Naruto turned to face her, his pupils becoming slits and his teeth growing. He gripped Nabari and ran at the shinobi, so fast that one would think he had teleported. I can sense the killing intent, the bloodlust. It's a demon. This is no longer a child. She quickly teleported to another mirror, leaving the one she had been in before shattered, as Naruto simply punched it. His strength grows every second. I must attack now. Now. She appeared above him, ready to strike him down. But they disappeared. He simply disappeared. She felt something coming behind her and turned her head to face the strongest punch she had ever felt in her whole life. She went flying, crashing through one of her mirrors and tumbling through the ground. 2 minutes later, she barely managed to stand up. Her face mask was cracked in half and falling. I'm sorry, Zabuza-san. I am no match for this boy. Zabuza-san, I'm sorry I couldn't be your tool. Naruto was running, ferocious bloodlust emanating from him. Zabuza-san, thank you for rescuing me, thank you for caring for me when no one else did. He was now inches away, Nabari ready to take its next victim. Zabuza-san, please meet me in heaven. They muttered, regaining consciousness. He could hear 2 different voices speaking and so decided to eavesdrop. One definitely belonged to Kakashi and the other belonged to Zabuza. Were they still on the bridge? Kakashi, I'm telling you, keep an eye on that kid. He looked like a reincarnated Kushimaru Kurayarara on that bridge. Shit, he gave me the chills. The assassin spoke. Fear could be felt in those last words. Naruto slightly opened his eyes to see he was in the same room in Tazuna's house that Kakashi had been resting in. He tilted his head to the side. Haku was there, asleep. The girl was obviously naked, despite being covered with white sheets. Her face looked bruised, and despite the blood spot on the sheets that covered her torso, she looked fine. He took that moment to see just how pretty she was. She wasn't as pretty and cute as Hinata, but she was still beautiful. Her long dark hair wasn't constrained in a bun now, and since she had no mask, he could look at her crimson lips and baby-like smooth skin. Naruto smiled before turning his head again and seeing the most awkward and terrifying thing he had ever seen in his entire life. Mamachi Zabuza and Haddock Kakashi calmly playing chess. There were so many things wrong with the picture that Naruto didn't know where to begin. The two didn't seem to notice that he was awake, and so, he decided to just play along. Since you're coming with us, you can do that yourself. But I know what you mean, the blow he delivered to Haku and the way he attacked that huge mob? Scary, to say the least. He replied, moving his horse and taking one of Zabuza's pawns. The rogue merely shrugged and took the horse with a bishop. Speaking of Haku, how is she? She's tough. I admit that she was in a really bad state, but she'll be okay by the end of the week. She probably used Hyoten to stop most of the blood from falling out. How are your kids doing? Zabuza pointed at Naruto while watching his bishop get killed by a tower. He quickly moved his queen, placing a threat on the king. Check. Naruto comes from the Uzumaki clan and thus has a very strong life force. That dark chakra almost consumed him, but he hung on to life and should wake up soon. Sakura is okay, and I sent her to guard the bridge again. Kakashi replied, performing the rogue technique and saving his king from certain death. Zabuza smiled, as if knowing Naruto would be okay confronted him. That girl is a devil with the flute. I feel sorry for any poor sap that tries his luck at the bridge today. The rogue smiled, remembering how Sakura had put him under a torturing when he tried to kill Tazuna. How about the Uchiha guy? Luckily, the icicle didn't hit any vitals. The ice also helped him from not bleeding out. The only thing that's hurt is his pride. Kakashi reached the edge of the table with a pawn and took his queen back, ready to unleash hell on Zabuza's pieces. To someone like him, that's probably the worst that could happen. Zabuza quickly used his horse to take the reborn queen out. Yep, that's Sasuke for you. By the way, just out of curiosity, why do you want to ask for refuge at Konoha? Kakashi asked, disappointed with his plan's failure. Zabuza could be a crazed killer, but he was a hell of a chess player. I don't like being a mercenary, Kakashi. All I want is for my village, Kurigakure, to become a respected and peaceful village again. Yugura, the current Mizukage, is a fucking retard that starts rivalries with any village he finds on the map. Besides, I want Haku to live a normal life. The poor girl has gone through enough and has had more blood on her hands than most do, yet she is still 13. I regret making her do it and want to compensate. Zabuza explained while cornering the king with a tower and a queen of his own. Kakashi couldn't believe it. Zabuza was a decent man after all. Thankfully, Kami didn't use Rikiri and killed him. It was then and there that Naruto decided to stop the show. "Oh, what happened?" he asked, as if he was waking up. Zabuza turned his head to face Naruto and raised an eyebrow. "You don't remember?" "Really?" he asked. Naruto focused really hard but didn't get much out of it. "All I remember is being inches away from stabbing Haku. I lost consciousness by then," he explained, crawling out of the bed. He was wearing his black clothes and by the corner laid Nabari, the Fuma Shuriken, and his black jacket. Zabuza was preparing another game with Kakashi as he replied. "Well, nothing that interesting. You just pierced through Haku with Nabari as if she was nothing. Then, my employer and the one who corrupted this land, Gato, and about 900 thugs appeared, all armed. Your dark chakra enveloped you even more, and you made special kunai scatter all around them, appearing from one place to another, throwing Nabari, and piercing through dozens at a time before grabbing Nabari and pulling the wire, stitching all of those corpses together in a bundle." Zabuza started the play by taking one of his horses out. Apparently, he wasn't fond of sacrificial moves with pawns. Kakashi quickly forwards one pawn, making way for his left tower before smirking. "That's nothing compared to what you did with Gato, though. You managed to crucify him with Nabari on a lamp post. You didn't cut the wire and simply forced your Raiten through it, electrocuting the businessman to death before creating a little ball of concentrated dark chakra and exploding him to pieces," his sensei explained, as if it was the most common thing in the world. Naruto looked down at his hands, the hands that had caused such damage. "What the? So that's the power of Nabari and Kyuubi fused together. Wait, concentrated chakra I could make out of that. Probably not so powerful right now, but hell, even a normal chakra variation would be devastating. If I could figure out a way to mix my Raiten in as well, it could very well be my ultimate jutsu, but this kind of thing is not easy to make. The sooner I start, the sooner I'll get it. Okay, I've got to go now." He quickly grabbed his jacket and weapons and almost flew out the door. Kakashi stopped him with a look. Oi, where are you going?" he asked, wondering what his happy-go-lucky student had in mind now. "I've got an idea for a new one, got to try it out quickly." And he was gone, leaving the two air-ank ninja wondering if he had teleported or just ran like a maniac. The chess game went on for about 10 minutes, not really deciding anything until one of them realized what Naruto was talking about. "I talked to him about a concentrated mass of chakra, and suddenly he's talking about a new. What could he possibly be talking about?" And then it hit him. "Fuck." Kakashi jumped from the chair and ran as fast as he could to the bridge. Zabuza just sat there, dumbfounded. "I can see this is going to be interesting," he muttered to himself before chuckling. What was he so worried about anyway? He was talking about a concentrated mass of chakra and using it against the enemy. He shut it up then and there. If the kid would try to replicate something could go wrong and he could end up blowing the entire village to Kingdom Come. Fuck. It wasn't even a minute later when Zabuza reached the bridge to see a terrified Kakashi trying to carefully approach Naruto, who was holding a blue sphere of chakra in his right hand. "Naruto, cut the chakra flow to that quickly. You're putting everyone on this bridge in danger," Kakashi demanded, trying not to look too scared. Naruto nodded, but his face looked desperate for help. "I know that I have to do that. Easier said than done. I have to cut the chakra flow and contain it at the same time, otherwise it will blow," he replied. The ball of chakra was spinning furiously, ready to destroy anything that its creator wanted it to. Naruto tried to cut the chakra flow, but it didn't work, and the sphere started to expand. Kakashi quickly kicked Naruto's hand, causing them to get out of control and explode, sending them flying away. Kakashi merely rolled back, and most of the others weren't affected except for the sudden rush of wind. Naruto wasn't so lucky, however, as he went flying against a tree. "Gah. Naruto. Are you okay?" Sakura quickly hurried over to him. Apparently, she didn't care about looking dumb. She was actually worried about him. "Yeah, that kind of hurt though. I see why no one has tried this already," he replied, standing up, holding his right leg that had twisted in a weird way when he fell. Sasuke simply sighed and walked up to him, took his right arm, put it around his neck, and helped him walk. "Seriously, you are such a pain," the Uchiha said as he carried his comrade around. Kakashi followed them. "Naruto, you idiot. You could have just asked about it first. Your father had already developed something like that. One you can actually control." Once we get back to the village, I'll teach it to you," he quickly told him. Zabuza smirked. Kakashi had managed to explain something to Naruto, make him excited about it, and prevent him from trying anything stupid again at the same time. No wonder he is in the bingo book. Their leave was not silent. Every single villager insisted on throwing a party for them and thanking them personally. Naruto could not count how many times he was promised eternal friendship and gratitude. When the bridge was completely done, they even called it the Great Naruto Bridge. Of course, Zabuza and Haku didn't get any of those privileges. They were the ones that spread the terror after all. But no one resented them for it. By now, it had been made public how Gato betrayed them and how it hadn't been anything personal. Apparently, if it hadn't been for Zabuza, Naruto would have gone wild and probably would hurt innocent people. He knew just how to control the 7 legendary blades side effect and quickly drained Naruto of the dark chakra. As they left the village, Naruto felt strange. It was as if, even though he was really tired and even hurt, he felt a whole lot stronger. Not just because of his new chakra, his new sword or his new skills. Also because of the people he met. It made him understand that the shinobi life was not all fun and games, and that in order to become the strongest of all time, a lot of sacrifices had to be made, a lot of horrible decisions had to be taken, and a lot of injustices had to be faced. I, Uzumaki Naruto, promise today that I will become a strong ninja, and that even in the darkest of times I will not lose myself or my ninja way. Ramen, ramen, ramen. The excited delightfully squealed as he ran towards Ichiraku's, ready to empty old Tuchi's stick. Team 7 simply sighed, not really surprised. Zabuza laughed and Haku smiled, shrugging. Who can blame him? He's just a genius, yet he went on an A-rank mission without even realizing it, managed to defeat 2, defeated Zabuza and me, destroyed 900 thugs, and killed a corrupt and evil businessman, saving a whole country and getting a bridge named after him. In my opinion, he deserves all the ramen he wants," she said. Everyone nodded as they stepped inside the village. Not 2 seconds later, they were stopped by an Anbu team. The captain, a woman with purple hair, stepped forward. "Haddock Kakashi, you step into the village with a wanted rogue nin and his wanted follower. What's the meaning of this? Have you forgotten the oath you took?" she judged as the Anbu team got ready for a fight. In response, Zabuza unsheathed Kubikirabacho and Haku grew ice out of her right hand. Yare. It's okay, Yugao. Zabuza and Haku are seeking refuge in Konoha. They need an audience with the Hokage. They will not attack unless you attack first. The silver-haired calmly said before turning his face to the Kurigakure demon. Isn't that right, Zabuza? Kill fun. But yeah, we won't do anything unless you chump. He replied, carefully sheathing Kubikirabacho. Haku's needles simply fell to the ground, almost instantly melting. The Anbu captain thought for a bit before turning to one of her colleagues and whispering something to his ear. The other one nodded before disappearing with the body flicker. She then turned her face back to them. My brother from the Anbu is going to see if the Hokage is available and willing. If he is, a piece of advice. Keep your weapons sheathed and do not try anything funny, or I guarantee you will find yourself in more pieces than usual. The other appeared again and nodded. She nodded back. Are we clear? Fine with me, but that was a terrible attempt at scaring us. Sakura would have done a better job. Zabuza taunted, walking past Yugao and leaving her unable to retaliate. Haku chuckled and followed him. Good old Zabuza-san. She thought to herself as she was used to the rogue nin's attitude. Minutes later they arrived at the Hokage's office. Again, they were stopped by his personal bodyguards, but as soon as they received confirmation, they steered clear of the way. Kakashi, Sasuke, Sakura, Zabuza, and Haku entered, not really surprising the Hokage. Let me guess, you two are seeking refuge in Konoha. Hiruzen started, confusing the odd team. Zabuza laughed. You are a pretty cunning old man. You would be a worthy opponent in chess. The rogue replied with a smile on his face. The Hokage facepalmed and pointed at one of the Anbu that protected him. No, maybe I knew, because the Anbu told me so. Whatever, though. You two may live in Konoha for as long as you keep your nose clean and don't cause any trouble. You also cannot leave the village without my consent. Are we clear? Zabuza was surprised. An old man had just made a fool out of him. Kakashi was trying very hard not to laugh. That old Hokage had always been a troll. Haku chuckled. We are clear, Hokage-sama. Thank you for taking us under your wing to join your flock. Now, please excuse me as I remove my partner from the building before he decides that it is a good idea to attack you." And with that, Haku gripped Zabuza and dragged him away from the room, preventing him from killing anyone and getting themselves killed as a result. When the door slammed behind them, the old Hokage turned his head to the team after signing. He stared at them for a bit. "What?" he asked, as if he had no idea what they were there for. Kakashi facepalmed, coughed, and extended his arm, presenting his hand as if asking for something. "You leeches. Fine, you'll get your money for an A-rank mission. Happy? Where's Naruto?" The dobe is already at Ichiraku's, filling himself with ramen. Sasuke replied as he received his money. Sakura nodded. "Let's all hope he eats enough to kill himself," she added. Sasuke smirked, Sarutobi sighed, and Kakashi did nothing because he had his now rich nose stuffed into Icha again. The door slammed again. "Sorry to burst your bubble, but no, I survived. Hey, G-san." Naruto walked into the room and approached the Hokage with a big smile on his face. The Hokage quickly handed the money over, smiling. Apparently, the blonde was the only person that could make him smile after all those years. "Hey Naruto. I heard from a messenger that you had a whole lot of fun in your mission," he commented. Naruto chuckled and nodded. "Yup, even though it was tiring and hurtful, this mission was awesome, can't wait for more A ranks. Anyway, I'm learning new things because of it," Naruto replied, as excited as one could get. "Well, I hope it was really that fun and worth it because you, the Hokage, took out a black book. Are now officially wanted. What the hell did you do? Oh wait, I know what you did, you murdered 901 people in the gruesomest way possible. You know you are the Kyuubi's Jinchuriki, and yet you bring all this attention to yourself. What the hell is your goal? Hey, I didn't do that consciously. It was the mix of the Kyuubis and Nabari killing intent. I couldn't do a thing," he quickly excused himself. The Hokage was ready to punch the Jinchuriki's face in when a really odd light bulb appeared over Naruto's head. "Oh right, I wanted to talk to you when I got back, remember? What does that have to do with anything? We have a problem here." He couldn't believe it. Actually, he did, but he refused to accept that the Yondaime, someone who was even more powerful than him, had a son so stupid. Naruto shrugged and just disregarded it as if it was nothing but trivial. "I don't care. I heard my mom left me something. Something she entrusted to you," he said, taking out one of his dad's kunai. The Hokage gasped, surprised that Naruto had learned of its existence. He quickly recomposed himself. "These matters are to be discussed privately. Kakashi, Sakura, Sasuke, please leave since you've gotten what you came here for. Kage, Baku, you must leave as well," the Hokage ordered. Team 7 quickly left, and after a moment of hesitating, his bodyguards left as well. The Hokage sighed once again before sitting down and pointing to the chair in front of him, commanding Naruto to sit. He then took on a thoughtful look, as if trying to decide what to say. "Do you know anything about it? Anything at all? Well, people might think I am stupid, but I'm not. My father left me his Hiraishin, stopping it from simply disappearing. I guess that what my mother has left me has something to do with my lost clan," he responded. The Hokage was surprised that the Kyuubis had some brainpower after all. He smiled and stood up, headed to a closet inside of the office, released the seal, and took out a huge red scroll. He lifted the scroll with impressive strength and placed it on the table before sitting down again. "This is the Uzumaki clan's last testimony. Your mother left it to you because she believed you could represent the Uzumaki's full power," he explained, a smile on his face as he remembered the day Kushina gave him the scroll so he could later give it to her son. Naruto, however, was not happy at all. "Oh really? Tell me something? Out of everyone in the Uzumaki clan, a baby was the best contender for this scroll? You're not telling me everything, G-san, and that is pissing me off," he quickly exclaimed, scaring the Hokage and making him sad as he realized there was no way to avoid what was coming. "I should have guessed, though. Sooner or later this had to happen. Better sooner, I guess. Okay, I guess I owe you that much." The Hokage took a deep breath before talking again. "The Uzumaki clan is no more. It is pretty much unknown these days, as you are the only known alive member. It used to be one of the greatest clans ever, competing with the Uchiha. They were famous for their sealing, better than any other. These techniques were feared, so much that Uzumaki, the village of the land of eddies, the village that the Uzumaki came from, was destroyed. How was my clan's relationship with Konoha destroyed? Naruto asked. The Hokage smiled then. Very good. Great grief was felt when we received the news, and in your clan's honor, we implemented your clan's symbol, a whirlpool, in our uniforms. He explained, and before Naruto could ask, he explained what the scroll was for. This scroll indicates how many Uzumaki alive members exist, and their names. It also includes the clan's techniques and history. It may include other things, but that I wasn't told about. I see. The blonde felt his emotions burning up inside him. His clan, his family, was destroyed. Burned to ashes, just because of fear. What could he do, though? He was just some kid that had become a ninja weeks before. What he should do was lay down and forget about it. No. I will bring back the fear. I will destroy the ones who destroyed my clan. I will make every foul soul twitch in fear when they hear the Uzumaki name. He took the scroll. And using the leather belt that was attached to it, he attached it to his back. He turned around and walked away. The Hokage could easily understand. He needed time for himself. But he was known for being unpredictable and therefore could not be reliable. So he decided to do what he could. What are you going to do? Naruto the Hokage asked. Naruto stopped, tightening his fist and grinding his teeth. I will bring the Uzumaki's glory and reputation back, and I will rebuild my clan and village. I will find out who caused the destruction of them, and I will get my revenge. I will put the souls of my fallen kin to rest. It was a hurtful truth that his clan was shredded to pieces and that he was probably the only living member, but it only made his hard decision easier. He was no idiot. Uzumaki had been destroyed in wartime, and Konoha knew of the threat. They probably just decided not to act because of their own safety. Fucking cowards. He had to choose. Just lay his vengeance down the guilty ones or make the Konoha villagers pay and suffer for being all happy and jolly at the cost of his relatives' lives without even knowing of it. He thought of his mother, Kushina Uzumaki, and how she had probably suffered from the clan's demise. Then, he thought of the people of Konoha. Most had despised him, but some, like Aim, Tuchi, Saratobi Hiruzen, Iruka, and Kakashi had accepted him and recognized him as a person. They didn't deserve to be mistreated because of others' mistakes. His thoughts finally stopped on Hinata. The beautiful girl that inspired him and that had kissed him, the girl that he was in love with. She lived in Konoha. Not a hard decision at all. I'm not those villagers. I don't make people pay for something others have done. I will kill the responsible ones and let the rest live, though not in ignorance. I swear on it, or my name isn't Naruto. The Hokage simply stared as Naruto walked out of the door. He had expected him to have a strong reaction, but not like this. But there was no doubt about it, Naruto had just resigned from being a Konohian. Was he serious about reconstructing Uzumaki? There were many doubts in the Hokage's head, doubts that were wiped away from his attention when he turned his head to the paperwork he had to fill out before noon. Let's get to it then. New, exotic people. Happiness, awkwardness, normal, and weird. That was what the Chunin Shiken meant. But I'm getting ahead of myself, and to prevent a shotgun shell to the face, following the fate of my former colleague, I'll rewind the tape a bit. It had been 2 weeks since Kakashi had told them about the Shiken, and they made him sign them in. The Shiken was an exam divided into 3 parts, designed to separate the diamond from the rough and see which genin deserved to be Chunin. The exam's first part was the written exam, designed to test a genin's knowledge, or, if they lacked it, the ability to obtain information. It was a Chunin Shiken phase, so it wasn't that easy. The written exam was made to psychologically torture the students. Not just that alone, their examiner would be Marino Ibiki, the legendary interrogator that was known for liking to make his victims suffer from pressure and stress. Only the strongest in willpower would be able to go through it unscathed. The second phase was normally a mission simulation. They were given an objective and a time limit. The ones who fulfilled it would pass to the third phase. Kakashi, though, told them not to take the second phase lightly since it was never an easy challenge. He told them that they were sent to an extremely dangerous place to fulfill an extremely dangerous task, and a lot of genin had died on it. It was considered the hardest phase of the Chunin Shiken. Finally, the third phase involved one-on-one combat. By now, the numbers had been shortened enough, and only the elite genins would still be qualified. Many died in this phase, as well, since the ones that were part of it were the ones with the most effective and deadly skills. For these reasons, only the most experienced and talented genins of the participant villages took part in the exam, as well, and only the most experienced and talented of those would make Chunin. Kakashi was reluctant, but his students had just completed an A rank mission and therefore wouldn't take a no for an answer. As a result, the 3 students had taken on an intense training. Notice the capitals. Actually, intense, again, notice the capitals, would be a complete understatement. Mito Guy himself would have cried youth lacking tears of pain and miserableness if he would have done a tenth of what they did in those 2 weeks. Sasuke spent every second he was awake with Kakashi in a training that only they knew about. Whatever it was so hard, and Sasuke's cheekbones could be seen easily. He now wore a shirt like he had before, except now it was black, and he had bandages on his arms as well. His ninja pants had also been traded for black ones. Anyway, the training was so intense that Makoto said he would pass out on the floor as soon as he arrived home. Poor Sasuke. Sakura had taken a liking to hanging out with teammate Kurenai Yuhi was more than glad to help the young Haruno with her blossoming affinity for. Sakura now wore a pink jacket and bandages as pants, not changing anything else in her outfit. According to Kurenai, Sakura had as much skill as Uchiha Shisui at her age. Sakura didn't know who that was, but if he was an Uchiha, he had to be strong. The rest of the tracker team were also happy to help her with her sensory abilities. Shino traded his knowledge for her tasteful salads, Kiba traded his instinct knowledge for every delicious food pill she could provide him with, and Hinata helped her as much as she could in exchange for information on Naruto. Training with Kurenai, training with Shino, Kiba, and Hinata, cooking bribes, and getting intel on her blonde teammate took so much out of her that she constantly fell asleep at dinner, ending up with her face smeared with ramen. Poor Sakura. Naruto hadn't been seen since he received the large scroll, except for his daily routine of dining at Ichiraku's. Just like his teammates, his outfit had changed. He now wore dark baggy pants, a white t-shirt below an open black jacket with the red Uzumaki symbol on the back. He also carried the Uzumaki scroll on the back, horizontally. He looked very determined about something, though no one knew why. In fact, no one knew that at his young age of 12, Naruto had mastered most of the complicated seals of the Uzumaki clan and created many, as well. The boy had always been worse than a retarded goldfish at ninjutsu, but he had always been great at riddles. Figuring out and using seals was a riddle, an art. It didn't really require special talent, only imagination, chakra, and intelligence, and the Jinchuriki had more than enough of each of them. As soon as he arrived at Konoha, Kakashi told him that he could not be his teacher, but that he knew someone who could and had called them to become his mentor. That is how Naruto met Jiraiya, an old pervert, writer of the adulterous Icha series, and, surprisingly, legendary Sannin. Jiraiya had been taught by the third Hokage himself and had trained Naruto's father, Minato Namikaze, who later became the fourth Hokage. The Iro Sennin, a nickname that had been given to him by Naruto, knew many of the tactics his father used with Hiraishin no, and even a technique invented by Minato himself, Rasengan. This, chakra control, and the summoning of frogs technique that Naruto thought hyper cool were the factors that compassed a young Uzumaki's rigorous training. Needless to say, they were exhausted. Chakra control was easy, except for the part of walking on water that he just couldn't get down. The Kuchius was a. That was pretty self-explanatory, and that's why Naruto was trying to tattoo a seal on his right palm to easen it up. It was working, but this riddle took him time. And then there was Rasengan. It was hard enough to make the chakra spin, but to add more chakra while containing it was insane. He was getting the hang of it, but again, it took time. With all this to do, he barely slept or ate. He was so tired that the Kyuubi inside him couldn't manage to talk. Poor Naruto. And so Team 7 trained hard, sharpening their skills in order to be on par with the other villages promising genin. They had heard that genins would come from Atagakure, Sunagakure, and Kumagakure, all villages that were rank high in ninja strength. Even Atagakure, a village that had only been created a few years before. But all that chatter apart, it was the day of the first phase. The day of the mind-wrecking, nerve-wracking, and nail-biting exam that promised the participants a whole lot of stress and psychological trauma. And that was why Naruto was heading towards the academy again. It wasn't particularly long, but the glares and stink eyes he received from the villagers got tiring. He was just about to throw a kunai towards the academy and teleport to it when he heard a yell. He quickly hurried over to see a ninja wearing a black full bodysuit with a yellow and purple circle in front, a cat-like black hood with the Sunagakure forehead protector engraved, and a bandage-covered tool on his back standing over Konohamaru, a little boy that had claimed rivalry with Naruto long ago. The Uzumaki quickly thought, what would dad do? The answer was simple. He threw a kunai at the thug, who looked up and catched it in mid-air, smirking. Naruto smirked back as he teleported to the kunai, spun, and kicked the thug's surprised face, sending him flying away. Konohamaru quickly ran away, ashamed of having to be saved by his rival. I told you so, Kankuro. Beating little kids is not taken lightly. Naruto turned his head, realizing for the first time that the Sunagakure ninja was accompanied. The girl was tall and pretty and had her blonde hair tied into 4 ponytails. She wore a tight and very light purple dress that was made out of fishnet by the shoulders. She wore her forehead protector as a collar, like Hinata, and carried around a huge fan on her back just like her friend. Her face was shaped into a smirk that quickly turned into a blush as she looked at the handsome genin in front of her. She was about to say something when Naruto threw a kunai behind him and disappeared, letting a puppet slash through the air with a hidden weapon. As the kunai passed over Kankuro's head, Naruto teleported to it, placing a hand on Kankuro's head and another on his back, imprinting a seal, before teleporting back to the girl's side, surprising her. You little fuck, Kankuro shouted as he tried to manipulate the puppet into attacking Naruto again. However, nothing happened, and the puppeteer looked at his fingertips, realizing no chakra was coming out. What? Trying is useless. I've implanted a seal that completely blocks chakra emission, nullifying your chakra threads. A puppeteer's greatest weakness. Naruto explained, smirking. Kankuro was so angry he couldn't even curse. Your smart companion is right, we don't take kindly to twerps hitting kids. I'm actually his sister. My name is Tamari, she tried to reply. You little cock smoker. I'll end you. The puppeteer shouted his pointless threats as Naruto laughed his ass off. Enough, Kankuro. Don't you think you've humiliated Sunagakure enough? Do I have to beat you as well to make your brain work? A voice asked. They all turned their heads to see a redeeded boy with a brown gourd on his back and the Sunagakure forehead engraved on the leather that was used to hold said gourd. The boy wore a dark tunic and a mix of different fabrics that would take long to describe. Kankuro gasped. Sorry Gaara, he apologized before turning to Naruto himself. For some reason, he felt like the blonde was familiar. I apologize for my brother's behavior. He does not seem to understand that we are guests in this village. My name is Sabaku no Gaara. What is yours? The guy had tremendous amounts of chakra, just like Naruto himself. But he seemed physically tired, and there were black rings around his eyes, as if he hadn't had any sleep since he was born. Uzumaki Naruto, apologies accepted. Welcome to Konohagakure, can I be of assistance? He replied. Actually, yes. Where is this academy supposed to be? The girl asked. Naruto smiled and quickly performed hand seals before biting his finger and drawing a line of blood on his right palm. No, he placed his right hand on the floor, using the tattooed palm to fulfill the contract and making a cloud of white smoke appear. It quickly dispelled, revealing a small red toad that seemed confused. Naruto Nai-san, who are these people? The toad asked, confused at the presence of 3 threateningly powerful chakras. They're guests in our village, Gamakichi. Could you please guide them to the academy? I've got to get going quickly. Explained. As Gamakishi looked at the menacing killer that Kankuro and Gaara shot him, he was more than happy to hop onto Tamari's shoulder. For some reason, she thought that the toad was amazingly cute. Sure thing, Nai-san, I'll guide Ni-chan and her friends to the academy in no time, the toad replied, smiling. Okay, see you then. Naruto threw a kunai at the air, pointing towards the academy, before turning back to the Sunagakure trio. Weren't you going? Kankuro asked. Oh, I have to wait for the kunai to land. A thick sound was heard. There it is. See you all next time. He's so cool, Tamari squealed right after he disappeared. Kankuro facepalmed, Gamakishi laughed and mocked his summoner, and Gaara simply closed his eyes. Control yourself, Tamari. Meanwhile. Finally. We've been waiting for hours. Sakura yelled at Naruto, arriving out of nowhere. Naruto. Such a drama queen, Sakura. It's been 10 minutes. Sasuke said with all of his broodiness and cool emanating. How are you, Dobe? Good to know you missed me. I'm great, how are you too? The Uzumaki replied. His two teammates laughed. Even though they had a shaky start, the team was closer than ever. Not because they had to be for the exams, but because they had had each other's lives in each other's hands and therefore had a unique connection that most of the other genin couldn't possibly understand. They trusted each other and even started to like one another. As strange as that may sound. After their moment ended, Naruto noticed a silver-haired boy kneeling by Sasuke's side. He was laying down cards, one after another. "Hey, Sasuke, what is he doing?" Naruto asked. Sasuke was about to answer when the ninja himself turned his smiling face to the. His silver hair was tied into a ponytail and he wore glasses and a purple outfit. He was the forehead protector of the village of sound. "Hi, I'm Kabuto. I am reading out the information on each of the genin each year." And it was then that Naruto noticed a crowd that had formed around the guy, eager to get intel and have an advantage over others. "What's your name? Don't answer. Giving out details on yourself is stupid," Uchiha quickly warned him. Naruto smirked. "I don't care. The more people come after us, the more people that are knocked out, and the bigger the chance we have to conclude the second and third phases." Uzumaki Naruto. Search it up. Almost immediately, Kabuto's face grew pale. "Uzumaki Naruto? Also known as the White Crow?" he asked, making sure of something. Naruto laughed and nodded, revealing the white crows that were engraved on the back of his fingerless gloves. The students seemed worried. Kabuto took out a card and laid it down. It had a picture of Naruto smiling in front of a crucified man in a suit. He managed to defeat Haku of the Ice Release, Momochi's abuser of Kurigakure's 7 legendary swordsmen, stole one of the swords and mastered its use. He then used the sword to kill 900 thugs, all armed. When he was finished piercing them, he sewed them all together, making a mass of bodies. After that, he killed Gato, mercilessly crucifying him with Nabari, the sword he has on his back right now. He then created a black ball of energy and exploded the body to dust. "What the fuck kind of sick guy is he?" some genin muttered to his colleague, getting nervous about this. "How did you know about all that?" Naruto asked. Only a handful of people were supposed to know this. One of the workers for the bingo book managed to watch the match and wrote it all down. "You're one of the only people in the world with a do not engage classification," the Itagakure shinobi explained as he trembled out of fear. "How is it possible that he doesn't know this?" "By Kami. So you're Uzumaki Naruto. This is nice, I get to kill a target on the bingo book and eliminate a possible enemy in the exam," a female voice said, making them turn their heads. Approaching him and his team were 3 Kumagakure shinobi. The leader was a blonde girl with a bowl cut, as if she had decided to become the first female member of the Beatles. She wore a low-cut outfit with mesh armor underneath, a short skirt, and red handguards, high boots with a modified Kumagakure flak jacket that only covered her stomach. She had a tanto strapped horizontally to her lower back. She stopped in front of them, followed by a girl with long, spiky red hair and a white bandana that had her forehead protector engraved in it. She wore a long, short-sleeved dress with frilly edges complete with the Kumagakure flak jacket, 2 yellow earrings, fishnet stockings, thigh-high boots with white soles, and had a katana on her back. Last, but apparently not least, was a spiky white-haired boy with a lollipop in his mouth. He had a dark outfit consisting of an overlong shirt with a hood, with red bandage handguards, Kumagakure shin guards, and a black forehead protector. Kumagakure shinobi. Known for being adept with swords and taijutsu. Sakura quickly advised Naruto, who smirked. The 2 blondes, Naruto and the Kumo leader, unseated their swords and blocked each other's blows, measuring strengths. "You know, I didn't kill all of those because they sucked. I killed all of those because I'm good. There's a reason why I'm marked as do not engage. Tell you what, you back off and I'll leave you alone. The second you attack me again, I'll kill you." The threat. For some reason, the Kumo leader's eyes narrowed in shock. The only guy in her team placed a hand on her shoulder and shook her a bit. "Samui, let's just go. Attacking this guy now only will bring us trouble." She didn't shrug off the shock completely, but she managed to turn around. "All right. Amoy, Karui, let's go." And they walked away, always keeping an eye on Naruto, who couldn't keep himself from chuckling. Sasuke pulled him and Sakura into the academy, away from the nervous mob. "How did you manage to scare the 3 of them off?" the Uchiha asked as they walked to the classroom. Naruto smiled. "Remember what Kakashi said? Every single one of the legendary swordsman's swords has the combined killing intent of all its former users sealed in it. It doesn't just affect the sword's user. It also affects the enemy if it comes into contact with them or with their weapon. Samui, or whatever her name is, saw her own death, like Ahi explained. Sasuke opened his mouth with understanding, losing his coolness, if that was even a word. They quickly hurried over to their designated classroom, while Naruto summoned a small, black toad that had a shinobi suit on. Gamakage, I need a favor. During the exam, use your invisibility power to check for someone who knows the answers. When you've got them all, come to me and tell me. Okay, he asked. The toad nodded and almost immediately vanished, jumping to Naruto's shoulder. They walked into the classroom to see that a bunch of other students had already entered. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura were assigned spread-out seats, and it was only 5 minutes later that Naruto realized he was sitting right next to Hinata. He turned his head. Hi, Hinata-chan. Hi, Naruto-kun. Ready for the test? She asked. He nodded with a smile, saying that he had a plan. Suddenly, the classroom's door was shut with a loud sound, letting the students know that playtime was going to start. A man wearing a dark bandana with the Konoha forehead protector engraved, 2 scars on his face, and a dark outfit stepped in front of the blackboard. The name is Marino Ibiki. For the next 2 hours, your asses belong to me, and I can play with you as I please. The exam is composed of 10 questions, each of them provides you with 10 points if you get it right. Cheating is not advised since the row of Chunin examiners by your left will record any cheating activity and either discount points or simply kick you out. He quickly explained, giving them little time to think. Effective tactic on stressing the mind and causing us to panic. Sakura thought, recognizing one of the ways that Kurenai taught her about mind stressing. Now begin, you stupid excuses for ninja. The test went rather smoothly for Team 7. Sasuke, who had his Sharingan awakened in the fight against Haku, could now copy the writing movements of the shinobi and successfully filled out each question in the test. Sakura felt herself under the shintention that belonged to Ino and placed herself under, using Ino's body to copy for herself. Basically, the spell was turned against a wizard and Ino was lucky not to be caught while being controlled by Sakura. Naruto simply laid back for half of the test's duration, doing nothing. Hinata even offered to let him copy her answers, but he declined with a smile. After Cage had memorized all of the answers, he approached them and gave them to him, granting him a full 100 as classification since he had copied from a disguised Chunin. Alright, maggots. Time's up. Pens down or you're disqualified. No one dared to question his orders and all the pens stopped moving. Now, for those that are feeling comfortable, think again. All of those questions are hereby invalid because I say so. Now, there is one last question and you must all accept to answer it. If you don't, you fail the exam and can try next year. If you agree to answer it but get it wrong, you can never participate in a Chunin Shiken again. What? That's bullshit, Kiba shouted. Completely unfair, Ino followed. Ibiki smirked. The world is unfair, little girl. And shut the fuck up, dog, before I shove a bone up your ass. Now, who quits? About half of the students left the classroom before the flow stopped. Trying to get more out, Ibiki approached Naruto. Oh, look who it is. If it isn't the little fox boy. How's everything doing? Have you made everyone recognize you yet? Have you even managed to perform the bunshin yet? No? Thought so. Why are you even a genin? Silence filled the room as the students were confused. Did they mock Naruto or stay shut because of the bingo book's reference? Naruto smirked. Well, I managed this. A kunai suddenly appeared by Ibiki's back of the neck and Naruto disappeared, only to appear behind Ibiki himself, crouching on the interrogator's back with the kunai to his throat. Bam. Dead. Either I am the brightest genin around here, or you are the shittiest interrogator I've seen in my life. Now for the question. No, I do not quit. Not because I want people to recognize me, not because I have a fox inside of me, not because of how you people treated me when I was a simple child. I'm doing this because I am going to rebuild my clan, my village, and show all of you the power of the Uzumaki. And if you've got something to say to that, I'll make sure you wind up just like Gatu. A pile of fucking ashes. The interrogator couldn't say a thing as he blinked and suddenly Naruto was sitting again in his most casual pose. Ibiki simply stumbled back to the front of the blackboard. Fuck it, those who stayed pass. A shinobi must know to trust in himself and yada yada yada. Geez, I need a drink. Well, that was unusual. Gamakage said, turning off his invisibility and letting everyone see him on Naruto's shoulder. A sudden boom announced a large white smoke cloud appearing in the middle of the room. It took a bit to dispel, but when it did, no one could believe their eyes. "Just what in the fuck?" Kiba asked. There was a huge white sash, nailed from one wall to another. It had the sexy and single Mitarashi Anko written on it, and right in front of it was one of the sexiest jounin Naruto had ever seen. She had light brown eyes and black hair with a violet tint to it, styled in a short, spiky, fan ponytail. She wore a tan overcoat with a purple inseam with a pocket on both sides and complete with a fitted mesh bodysuit that stretched from her neck down to her thighs. She wore a dark orange miniskirt, as well as a forehead protector, a small pendant that looked like a snake fang on a thick cord rather than a chain to prevent it from being easily torn off in combat, a wristwatch, and shin guards. She also wore a dark blue belt around her waist that connected to her skirt, which had an appendage-like sash. Most males in the room had a nosebleed, except for Naruto, Sasuke, and Gaara. "Everyone, make way for Anko to start." The door suddenly crashed apart, revealing a 192 meters tall, muscled, and lightly tanned guy with medium spiky brown hair and brown eyes. He looked macho, but at the same time had defined, feline-like features. He hurried over to Anko, grabbed her by the collar of her armor, and dragged her away. "No. It is really late, and I need my sleep. No more writing. I am not writing more, because some idiot wants to make her big introduction," the author of this fanfiction declared, dragging her out of the classroom against her useless protests. No one really knew what to say. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. If you want the next part of this story, let me know in the comment box. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.